Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you today how to make Squidward Tentacles from Spongebob out of gum paste. And if you see me use any tools or supplies, check the link in the description below. It should be able to help you out. Alright, to begin I'm going to start with his legs. I'm going to start from the bottom of Squidward and work my way up. You can probably see there's a little head on a pike there, a nice styrofoam block. Pretend it doesn't exist. It turned out it was too big. I don't know what I was just messing. So we're going to go over that later, but for now, working on the legs, I took a long, thick piece, rolling it kind of in the center so that the two ends will flare out, almost like, making a dog bone or something. I cut off the one end to make it nice and flat. I just kind of flattened off the other end by pinching and rubbing it on top of the counter that I'm working on there. Ram it through on a lollipop stick, and then, of course, you have to reshape it because lollipop sticks do smush things a little. Now I'm putting 4 stripes down from each corner, I guess, side. And those are going to be the separations of Squidward's tentacles, because he has 4 tentacles that he walks on, but he kind of keeps them together to make 2 legs. So I made a little cut in the front and back of the one set to kind of separate. You see, I'm kind of pinching them apart, flaring them up so he still has the pointy little tentacle floppy feet that he's got. Just re-accentuating my line a little bit in the front because I kind of lost it a bit. And yes, that's kind of what I did. I'm leaving the top, as you can see, flared out for the bottom, for his bottom, I guess. But again, with the lines, just trying to keep them nice and straight down the center, so it looks like he has 2 legs, when in fact the lines on the side show you that it's actually 4. Perfectly clear, right? All right, now I'm going to move on to his shirt. I used a mustard brown color, so I have a mix of some copper and a little bit of golden yellow to make this color, because it's not like a true brown. I'm kind of a stickler for colors when I mix them up. So that's what I did for this coloring. Now I took just a wad, as you saw, a little flat on the top and the bottom, and also tapered toward the top. Just run it down the lollipop stick and even it out with the top of his legs there, the base of the end of his torso, I guess you might want to say. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of the gum paste to wrap around his neck. And I'm sorry, this is gum paste, it's not fondant. I'm using gum paste because this is exactly what it's meant to do. It's meant to get hard, hold its shape. It can be standing characters that way, 3-dimensional, and it won't dry out and crack like fondant sometimes can. This is like very, very nice to work with here. If you're going to use fondant, you'd have to add CMC powder or Tylo's powder to it. Otherwise, I don't see this working really well. I think it would just sag and smush, and I just don't think it'll work. But, do your best. Now, I made the collar for his shirt. I cut out a rectangle as I talked through it, and at each end I cut up and toward the center, and that creates the little kind of like flared 70s style big collar that he's got on his shirt. I'm working on his arms right here. I just rolled out a nice long piece, but see how I'm careful not to roll the end of it? That way I have that little ball at the end that I'm just going to pinch off at the tip of it there and make it into kind of like a suction tentacle thing. I did it for both of his arms, and once I held it up to his body, got the right length, cut off the extra. I'm going to take some of that same, I'm going to call it brown color here, mustard color. Rolled it really thin, cut 2 rectangles, and wrap it around the top of his arms. And I'm cutting it at an angle so that it will kind of taper and go into his shoulders a little bit more. And they are on the longer side because he does kind of have long arms. And I'm kind of realizing now also I could have made his tentacle hands a little smaller. He's kind of got really big mitts. I'm putting his arms crossed because Squidward, tends to be a little more closed off and aloof in his body language. So that's what I'm going for here. Now I'm working on his head. I had a ball. I rolled it skinny in the center and just cut it. And that's it. That's his head right there. Just round off the bottom a little bit and that's it. So he has basically a giant light bulb head. That's all you have to do. So his head's really easy. And even if that bottom part of his head is kind of messy, we're going to hide it with this mouth that I'm making right here. So I had a tic-tac shape. I flattened it. I'm making it into a smile. I used my little circle cutter there to make an imprint of the center there of his smile. So now he's got lips. Going to make his nose, just a piece that's oblong that I'm rolling between my fingers so it's skinny at one end and wide at the other. Just make sure it's long enough to hook over his mouth and down past his mouth. He's got a big long nose. Now I'm going to show you his eyes. I am going to make, again, 2 little white tic-tac size shapes there. And I smushed them and rolled them flat, so now they're nice and long. And then add a little bit of water to the back and then stick them onto Squidward's face. And make sure they are like right into that nose. You could even take the nose off and replace it so it covers the eyes a little bit, because his eyes and nose are very much on top of each other. Now to give him the pupils of his eyes, he has kind of rectangular shaped pupils. So I'm cutting out some black gum paste, making a real thin, real skinny little rectangles here. It's hard to see, but I did cut them in half. You're going to see in just a second here. See how I separated them out? And then place them right in his eye. You don't want them too big or too long, but they do have to have a good rectangular shape to them and hopefully be sitting pretty much in the same spot in his eye like that. Otherwise it looks a little weird. And I am going to add one final touch now, his eyebrows or forehead ridges. So I just drew them on with an edible food coloring marker. And there you go, you got Squidward. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because it really does help me out. I've got a lot of other videos out there as well as a bunch of other Spongebobs, so check those out. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.